Alice Well here. We're doing a collective general message for whoever resonates with the full moon lunar eclipse in Taurus. Is it a full moon as well? I know it's an eclipse. In Taurus on the 8th, or just kind of generally around then. Whenever you see this, it might be for you. Take what resonates, leave the rest. As you're that feels really good. As you're listening to everything, if you start to feel like, oh, this isn't my story, then it's not your story, so don't worry about it. It's like a really nice breeze. Okay, so the crux of our story begins here. It revolves around this card, ÁRBOL. I saw this walking down the street the other day, and it's just a little piece of cardboard, and I recognized it, but I wasn't totally sure what it was from. It's from a system called LOTERÍA, which is not technically tarot, but it has it's sort of linked to it. You can do a little search, and I'm sure the Google will explain it better than I can. But I'll also leave a link down below because there was a couple of stories that I read about it that I'm going to be referencing. So it's basically like a bingo game, but you can use the cards. They're kind of somehow attached to tarot. I only just found out about it the other day, so. But this card represents two trees that I'm going to be referencing it as. The first one being from the Night of Tears, which was when this first story I'm going to tell you, Cortez invaded an area in South America, and he was able to somehow the head of that tribe got killed while he was there. It's maybe he did it, maybe someone else, we don't know. He stole a bunch of treasure. He was basically just colonizing, doing his thing. And eventually there was this one night where he was driven out of the city with his men, and they were essentially all or most of them were killed in this in the leaving. Even though he technically was there and got everything that he wanted, he accomplished what he was there for. It's called the Night of Tears because they finally were safe at this tree after escaping whoever was left. And the story goes that Cortez just broke down and was absolutely devastated by the cost that everything was. The cost of the pursuit of killing this king and getting his treasure, and kind of all of that in general was devastating, and it sort of hit him. So that's the first tree. The second tree, and this is when I was going into my own what my guides said and my own interpretation of this card, was also the Judas tree, because a very similar thing happened where Judas, who was Jesus's, this is also part of the story, you have to believe this part in order to get the rest of the reading, that Judas was actually Jesus's most faithful follower, and Jesus told Judas, you must betray me in order to fulfill this crazy ass prophecy that we're all a part of. And Judas was like, okay, because he loved him and he loved God and he believed in everything they were doing. But then of course everything goes down. Jesus is killed, he's blamed for it, and then he winds up hanging himself from what is called the Judas tree, and it's considered to be the first suicide, is the mythos around Judas. So this is where we start. We start at a tree. There's also another, I'm being reminded, there's another image, not a tree, but if you've ever watched Handmaid's Tale, there is a part of Handmaid's Tale where the main character escapes, but she winds up leading this group of women to a farm, and when she gets to the farm, she's completely out of it. It's been harrowing, to say the least. And she gets there and she's staring at the people, and she's like, is this such and such farm? Or I can't remember how she says it. And they're like, yeah, you made it here. And she's stunned, and she's like, we're here? And they're like, yeah. And she just passes out. And that's the whole thing. We're at the end of some kind of big trek. We finally made it to the place we were going to, and now we're having potentially this Night of Tears. I really think that this is what this eclipse energy has felt like, looking back on what it cost, the cost of getting to where you are now. And ultimately, I think that there is like a guilt or a shame maybe surrounding the things that you realize about yourself. I mean, like one of the fundamental parts of growing up is realizing like you yourself are a monster, and that you yourself are also the cause of most of your problems. You're certainly how you got here on Earth. So yeah, that's where we're starting. A little bit of a preamble here. So if you're feeling like, yes, you've been through a huge ordeal and now you're finally at this place where you are like either you yourself are like, oh wow, what have I done to get this success? Or you've been like, oh wow, just so much happened in general. And I think that's probably closer to what it is going to be. Because I very sincerely doubt any of you had to, go through what what Judas or Cortez went through to get to this spot. So actually, where am I going to put this so this doesn't blow away? I'm just going to stick it here. Yeah. Ooh, interesting, close to my heart. Well, that was a funny thing to do. We'll keep going from here. Let's start with our Tao cards, our Wisdom of the Tao. This is one of my favorite decks. And so let's just get a little bit of info about everything, because we've clearly gone through an ordeal and we're clearly exhausted, and we're looking back and we are gaining wisdom from this time. And then I think from here, from this tree, we make a decision. Obviously Judas made the decision to leave. Please don't. And Cortez, I don't even know what he did afterwards. But in Handmaid's Tale, she goes on to be obviously a badass, and you gotta watch Handmaid's Tale, of course, but so we have a couple of different paths that are before us. Ooh, let's see. Ooh, inner wisdom. How do you know where to go forward from? You listen to yourself. Let's read this one. I actually don't know that I've ever gotten this one. You have the key to the solution. You do! Okay, I'm already excited. You have the key to the solution. Things may look complicated and out of reach, but subconsciously you know what you must do. Don't allow fear to impede you. Meditate on your question and reflect on life experiences and lessons to find answers. What it took to get you to this tree, to this night of tears, and it might be a night of tears. You might really be like, I don't know where to go from here. You do know, though. You have inner wisdom. And also the story of Odin is coming up right now, and it has a little bit for me, and I'm just remembering it. So Odin he plucks his own eye out for wisdom. And the message of that is essentially like, when you suffer, you get wisdom. That is the exchange. You're guaranteed to know more, not only about yourself, but about reality and about what you're willing to do. And it might change. You might be like, I did too much for too little. And now, what really matters to me? And I think even in searching for the wisdom, for the way forward inside yourself, you will realize that you'll like, oh, I am the most important thing. If you put yourself through a lot of physical stress or something over the past however long this journey was for you, you might be like, you know what, I can't do that anymore. I'm going to start I'm going to start a qigong practice. I'm going to start a yoga practice. I'm going to I'm going to start Ayurveda. I'm going to change the way I eat. That might be part of what the inner wisdom gives you as well. So the way forward is likely not obvious, because you have to cash in all that wisdom that you just earned from all this suffering. And you know the way. And it's always been the way. Like, this is what you came to Earth for. Very exciting stuff. All right. Ooh, I think it's gonna be this one. Yeah, truth. Look at this. I think you might have followed the white rabbit here of truth. And there is an element of innocence lost, it feels like. An exchange of innocence for wisdom. Very hard one. If you are regretting, if you're like, oh, why did I even chase the rabbit? Why did I go down the rabbit hole at all? Why did I start this pursuit? You started this pursuit when you were born. You have always been walking this path. If it's a comfort, there was nothing you could do. Like, you were always bound for greatness. Sorry. please don't regret any of the choices that you made. Because even if they were like bad ones, or you were like, oh no, like you're having a Cortez moment, like really, or yeah, Judas moment where you're just like, this was an unforgivable thing that I did, or that thing that other person did was unforgivable. I can't believe this is happening. Like truly, like things did not turn out the way that you thought they were going to. Don't regret that though, because like that's the wisdom. You could not, like, obviously like, she didn't get him, the bird. I mean, thank God, but no, I'm nervous she's gonna kill a bird while we're sitting here. But anyway, don't forget any of the things that you went through, because, ooh, that was a little bit, you're becoming a better hunter. The things that you want, you might have missed this time around, or you might have thought that you missed them, but you didn't. That's sometimes the most difficult part of the journey, like the path, the way. We think we know where we're going, and then the whole point is that we're meeting Spirit halfway. And Spirit comes in and is like, actually, it's this other thing. Surprise! Stay curious. And it's so beautiful. I know that it's technically because of global warming, but it's still so beautiful out. And I think that also might be part of the lesson of like, yes, the cost for this beautiful day was great and is potentially an omen of the end of the world. The least I can do is enjoy it. Okay. The card that fell was Change of Direction. And this doesn't surprise me at all, because like, I think the way forward from this Night of Tears, from this Judas tree, once you've really like forgiven yourself, forgiven the other people, you kind of like have cleaned up, you're done ruminating and thinking. Even look at this, it kind of feels like this person's like ruminating. They're like, all right, I guess a change of direction is in order now. Once you're done with that, I think you're going to be going onto this path that like you couldn't have predicted, but you're like, oh, it was always this. And that's kind of a magical moment. But if you really did lose a lot to get this wisdom, I think it might take you a while even to accept it. What's that, you know, that phrase like, one door closes, another door opens, or like, when God closes a door, they open a window, or like, you know, one of those things. I think I'm getting the image of someone who's just like sitting in the hallway, who can see that like the new door is open, but they're kind of like, they've got their back leaned against like the closed door, and they're like, all right, I know, but I need a second to get a breath. But I don't know that this is going to take too long, like this recoup time, because I really think the energy of the eclipse is helping ferry you through, or at least will show you what door was open, or like what wisdom you did gain by plucking out your eye. You know what I mean? Hi, Noor. Oh. Okay. Oh, nope. All right. Not bad. So, yeah. Oh, I'm excited though. I feel like this is so overdue, and truly like the depths that you have traversed. It was all worth it. Even if you don't believe it right now, I promise it was. You wouldn't have done it if it wasn't. Isn't that weird? What should we ask now? Also, these planes are always driving me nuts. I always forget that I'm under this. I haven't done a reading for a little while, so as soon as there was a plane, I was like, no. Ooh, although there was a plane the other day that I was out here, and it had a different like type of engine or something, and it was much quieter. And so if you know me and you've been watching my videos, you know that like I sort of complain about noise pollution, and I was like stunned. I couldn't believe that there was an airline that had actually, not only was it not like that grating sound, it was actually a little bit pleasant. It was like a like through the sky. So I think that maybe the reason I was thinking of it right now was simply because like impossible change is happening. Things that you thought you would never see, like a real change to something that is truly bothering you, is a coming. The years start coming and they don't stop coming. Oh, okay, we're into a new, look at that beautiful sun. Can you see this? Yes, the sun's coming out. Everything's gonna be okay. And even look at this beautiful, this Taurus ox, like looking at the sun, right? Like looking up. Wow. I think that grounding, though, is part of what will allow you to lift your head to the sun and to see the path forward. We have this inner wisdom that we've cultivated, and really respecting ourselves as travelers who've gone through so much. We are the Cortezes and the Judases and the whatever her name is in Handmaid's Tale of the world now. It's us. Like, we're the main characters. We're the ones who are here. Our storylines are what change the world, or what make it up and what will change it. You are important. And I know you're like, I know, but you're important. And taking care of your body and respecting what this individual who you are has gone through is how you'll be able to see the sun forward. Also, like there's a solar plexus message here, kind of like the sun of the self is the solar plexus. I mean, I often think of the third eye, but like really without this, I think of it as like this joy, like beaming out of your chest. That is what leads you forward and how you'll know where to go. Take your time at the tree though, also. There's no rush. And what I really like about this is that it almost looks like this ox, this Taurus, is like excited. He's like, let's go! But I like to, I'm seeing like almost the moment before this where they've just turned towards the sun, where you've just looked into yourself, where you've just unblocked, or however you feel connected to this solar plexus of yourself. And obviously it being an ox, being a Taurus, is indicative of, I think that there will be this moment, like dawn breaking on the night of tears, and you'll look up and be like, I am important. I'm here for a reason. Everything happened the way that it was always going to. I think contentment and like sleep, a good night's sleep after you've not slept for a long time is really what you need, and I think what you will be receiving. Cool. Wow, that was very special. Let's read it. Stand up forcefully for what you believe. Your strength and intelligence will get you through. Don't rush your decision based on limited information. Welcome others' constructive opinions, but don't allow yourself to be pushed. Always do whatever you're gonna do. Even if you feel like it's the wrong, you think it'll upset people. Because if it does, or maybe you did make a decision that upset people or something, there's always something that you're learning about yourself in those cases. And also it's an opportunity for the people around you to practice boundaries, or say like, hey, this is really impacting me as well. And then and then you'll know. So do whatever you're gonna do, and the people who love and care about you are going to tell you how it impacts them, and you'll be able to talk about it. It could potentially even bring you closer if there's something that they don't know about you, and you're like, I've got to pursue it, I've got to do this. I think you might be surprised at who supports you. Really, really. I went through my spiritual awakening in 2020, and I was like talking to aliens. I was doing all this stuff. Not that I don't talk to them now, but they were like present. It was all new. I was like losing my mind, and I was so surprised at how many people. I had a couple of like truly crushing betrayals, but like very surprised at how many people, and like who specifically was like, oh yeah, I'm all about this, I support you and I love you. So if that was in the back of your mind, you're worried about moving forward from this night of tears, or you've done something to get yourself there and you're like, was this the right call? If you're like having a Judas moment of like, but I was so sure, but like he told me to do this, but I did it out of love, how could it have gone so badly? Once it's obvious that it actually wasn't the wrong call, then move forward and find that strength in your solar plexus. Because your solar plexus, I always think of too, like that phrase, follow your bliss, always reminds me of the solar plexus. Like go where this confidence, this sun, this sense of self is leading you to. And even too, once you've really been through the type of journey that you've been through, and you're deep in this either regret or remorse, or just having a tough time contemplating the cost of everything, you're different. You're a different person than the person who actually went on it. So just be mindful of that as well. Okay, that's actually, all right, that was, that's it for this one, but we'll do a Magic the Gathering card as well, and just see what advice is there. I'm gonna get a drink first, actually. I love these. Have you ever seen them at like the Whole Foods or whatever? They've got reishi, chaga, turkey tail, mushrooms, man. Mushrooms are it. Okay. All right, so I was going to say, oh, let's like see what the advice is, but the advice really is like, you know what you did this for too. If you, like, in the back of your mind, you might have been like, there might have been a calculation at some point. Like, you know what you did this for. So take what is yours. And grieve and learn and be wise, but don't let it have been for nothing. Because it wasn't for nothing. There is something that tuning into your solar plexus, coming back to yourself, will show you, and it's always been there, and it's always been the path, and there's nothing to regret, but take all the time that you need at this tree. I really think this eclipse energy is going to help us out. Okay. So I guess just some closing remarks then. I think I'm gonna just take a couple and read it like a story. Let's see. Yeah. I think like, okay, there is I love this. This is this solemn recruit. This is you. This is you picking up your hammer. The backstory of this character is that they can no longer watch the war happen and not put in their skills. And that's exactly, I think that you might have started out this way, where you were like, I've got to start the hero's journey and see where it leads me. And I am this intrepid traveler, warrior, and I've got a skill, and I know that I need to show this to the world. That's how we started out. And then this is where I sort of can't. There is this card of this crippling blight. And this actually is a character who is themselves the blight. They're not like fighting it. Like they are, you can see like their arms like are dead, like at the fingertips. They're like, I think that this represents like the dark side of yourself that you thought you were fighting, but it turns out have to integrate. Like, you have to accept who you really are and who you've been in other lifetimes, and a whole bunch of really strange things. But then we've got these two dragons, and they're both red. I think they're red. Yeah, one of them is this hell kite igniter, and this is this opportunistic dragon. I think along the way, you either may have encountered dragons, or if you haven't yet, like, talked to the dragons, please do. They're very helpful. The thing about being a dragon initiate, or like having dragon spirit guides, is they really will push you because they want authenticity. And I think the thing that you really have accomplished is knowing exactly, even when you know, even when you are looking at something and you're like, oh no, I do think you're seeing clearly. And that's something that the dragons are really into, is shedding the light on what's really happening. They have kind of a slight, not always and not in every tradition, but they do have like a Lucifer connection, the light bringer. And I think sometimes the light can be very harsh and can feel like you are on fire, even like you were set ablaze, but you were this opportunistic dragon here. I think it was risky. Whatever you did, it might have been like potentially emotionally risky, but you knew you had to do it because you were, if you think about your life before you started on whatever journey it was you took, you'll know like, I couldn't go back. What was I not gonna take this epic journey? No, we're okay. We'll get through this night of tears. Like, because this last one here is this master healer. This is how you become a master healer, a wounded healer. It's literally the only way. There is no lotus without mud. If you've ever seen the show, the OA, the original angel, as I think what it winds up being an acronym for, an abbreviation for. Anyway, there is this thing, there's like this house, which is a metaphor for like awakening. And you have to go through the bottom. You have to go through like there's like this disgusting sewer system under it. And if you go through that way, then you're able to get all the way to the top. But if you just go in and it's a regular house, you'll miss it. Watch that show if you haven't already. It's pretty quick. It's good. And that's how you become a master healer. And look, there are these people here who are going to want to hear this story of how you came to know yourself. And they're not going to judge you for your night of tears, for your Judas tree moment, because they are also looking for salvation and for a way through their own nights that are like that. None of us are perfect. And if you're still hanging on to that, it's an unnecessary suffering. It's tough to let go of, though. Yeah, so if you are like literally, you might literally be like an energy healer or something, or this might just be the way that you telling this story. It's like a redemption. It's like it was all for this story. It was all for this path. It was all for whatever it was. This wisdom that you gained here. Like you're so close to some type of finish line. You know, like nothing ever ends. But there's like a really like there's like a smaller chapter in your life. It feels like you just finished. But it's a part of like it's carrying in its wake the reason that there was such a sacrifice that needed to be made, or like some sort of catastrophe or something happened, is because it was carrying this like much larger timeline to a close as well before you jump off onto something new. But it's not new. It's been the thing. It's always been what you're going towards. Beautiful. Well, happy eclipse, and this was great. I really admire, I think sometimes this word gets overused, but your resilience. You should rest now. I'm even getting like a 4 of Swords image in my head. It's like a warrior resting after battle before continuing on their path. So well deserved.